Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Apollo Art Analysis. This episode, we're going to be taking a look at a piece by the career photographer Federico Rios. And in this episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about texture. We're going to talk about political presence, and we're also going to talk about the Colombian protests of 2021. So let's jump right into it. So when I first see this work, you're met with a scene of a lone subject here set in the midst of this grand smoke. He appears to be standing on the steps of a government building. Of course, we have a massive column near him. And of course, this texture of the smoke kind of roils to the composition and also defines the frame of our subject really well. And so you see the color red here. The color red, black, and gray are probably the main palette here. And the color red is a very visceral, very primal color. It always captures your attention, and it kind of gets the heart racing like the sight of first blood. So that black-red aesthetic, it really draws the eye here, and I think it's a really kind of exciting and a visceral introduction, a really great photograph for sure. And so with this in mind, we see this contrast, of course, a dark on light contrast of the subject's form, our police officer's form, and that really accents the kind of subject's form, really accents the silhouette, defines that for sure. It calls our attention. Of course, you have that plume of smoke. It kind of roils through the composition, but within that, it frames and holds the scene of our subject. So I think that's really important. And I also want to talk about the sense of texture here. Whenever you see the sense of smoke, whether it's clouds or gases, tear gas, anything in between, smoke canisters, it's going to give that sense of texture. You have that roiling kind of sense there. There is a sense of texture on these kind of ruinous steps as well. Of course, you have what appears to be, I think, paint. Maybe milk. I think it's paint. You see that as well. So there is that sense of texture, that sense of kind of deterioration, really dismal spatial composition. It really displays that kind of dark theme quite masterfully. And so with that in mind, there is this sense of energy within the texture as well. You see the canister appears to be in the midst of rolling down the steps. So this is kind of a candid action shot. And so with that in mind, you do see that sense of energy. Of course, it's kind of strange from our perspective. We see, it looks as if, the energy, there we go. Looks as if the energy is moving that way. Because you have this small area, and then you have this greater opening, or that release of energy. So there's this unique kind of phenomenon in the composition where the eye is drawn towards the subject, but it's almost like an optical illusion, because the canister is rolling down the steps. So the energy, maybe some of the visual energy is going that way to direct our attention towards the subject. But in the actual scene, in the final analysis, it's headed that way. So there is this kind of double juxtaposition of the energy going on. I think that's really interesting to note. And also, of course, we're looking at this piece. This piece took place during the protests of 2021 in Colombia. And so Colombia has been dealing with kind of the guerrilla fighters, and they actually reached an agreement in 2016. But since the agreement, the police still see any type of protest. There we go. The police still see the protest or any act of protest as an extension of the guerrilla fighters. So there is this kind of phenomenon happening where you have people protesting, especially in 2016 and beyond. Since then, people are trying to take back their rights, have a greater political presence in Colombia, and the police, it's hard to say whether they dislike or like that, but it does seem that they're looking at any type of protest as, say, a carryover, or it's being indistinguishable from the guerrilla fighters. So that's really dangerous. We do have some of the protesters facing the brutality of some of these officers. That's actually what this piece is about. This piece was taken, of course, you see, I believe, but you do see him fully decked out in that kind of clad riot gear. And so with this in mind, with this kind of police brutality that we're seeing, a lot of people are calling it out quite a bit. And, even though the police may be seeing any act of protest as just a carryover of the guerrilla movement, that really is no excuse. We have people who are in the streets, people are saying they've had to drink urine, people are saying who have been beaten. There's a lot of accusations going on. But it's not my place to say whether those are completely true or not. Although this piece is the subject of that, so we definitely need to talk about that. And so that political presence is incredibly important. You have citizens trying to kind of take back a greater say, and then you have the police. The police are actually a branch of the military in Colombia, so there is this kind of dangerous militarization of that, where violence might be seen as just another part of the job. Of course, regardless of that, that is not an excuse to the brutality. And, we see a lot of people calling that out for sure. So there is this kind of two-way dialogue between the citizen and the state that I think is incredibly important. We want peace. We don't want, chaos. We don't want red smoke and blood flying everywhere. We don't want to have, FARC having to fight against the riot police officers. There needs to be stability, there needs to be peace, and the only way of doing that is that two-way dialogue between citizen and state. Though I'm not entirely versed on this event, I wanted to showcase this piece, and it really had a great impact on me, because when I saw this, it just captured my eye, and I wanted to look deeper into that. So it's not my place, whether to say one side or the other, but I really wanted to call some attention to this work either way. And so Colombia is faced with kind of two roads here. One is giving the citizens greater political power, and the other is the consequence of not doing so. So either way, there needs to be that kind of two-way dialogue between citizen and state. That's incredibly important, so we don't break down into, say, chaos and violence. So I hope and I pray for that for sure. And so I also had one more image here I wanted to show you guys a comparison. So this image appears to be taken maybe moments after. So you see the steps here, you see that red smoke, what appears to be the government building behind them. This very well could be our main subject. I was actually, before I made this piece, I was referencing the numbers on the helmet, although it's a little blurry, it's hard to say for sure. I know it definitely is not this subject. If this is the subject here, then that's going to be this one. And so this is really interesting. It kind of has moments after that. Kind of gives you another shot, gives you another perspective of the same scene. So I thought that was really interesting. This piece really impacted me. Although I don't know too much about the kind of event that's going on, I wanted to call some attention to it so that everyone can look deeper and also enjoy this piece as I have. It's clear that Federico Rios is a very, very talented photographer, really trying to get to the bottom of things and displaying that in a very artistic and a very impactful and a very meaningful way. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. We talked a little bit about the Colombian protests. We talked about the sense of energy and the sense of texture here. We also talked about, say, the riot gear and the constant dialogue between citizen and state in the political process. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. If you guys enjoyed, go check out Federico Rios' other works, doing a lot of really good stuff. Like I said, he's a career photographer, so definitely deserves some more love. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. My name is Apollo. This was Apollo Art Analysis, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you'd like to support our work directly, please check out our Apollo community tokens. Apollo Art Exchange is an ecosystem of art appreciation which elevates artists each and every day. Thanks for listening.